think it's so important that in the sex positive space we step out, because space is so vulnerable, that we step out of this circle of victim and perpetrator, and start into empowering ourselves, learning about consent, learning how to stand up for our own boundaries and desires. And next on stage I get to introduce Sanya Alaya, who will talk about the beautiful journey from pain to pleasure.
So yeah, my name is Sanya, and I'm working as a sexual empowerment coach and tantric body worker, certified sexological body worker, and many more modalities. And when I was thinking about the talk today, I felt like, okay, I could share a bit about the story, like how did I end up doing what I'm doing, and I was looking at like what's the red thread in my story, like. What is holding it together? What is repeating? And I very quickly came to this phrase from pain to pleasure, which is also almost like that, but part of my webpage. And when I talk about pain, I don't necessarily mean just physical pain. Like that's one part of pain that we can experience, but there is emotional pain, there is pain that's coming from trauma. So I'm talking about all those things that influence us on a deeper level. And the topic of pain for me is often like really physical, and that's also why it comes up for me over and over again. So it's basically with me almost every day in my life. Like I have autoimmune disease, I have a chronic pain disease, I have injured hip, I have back pains, like all those things. And I wasn't always able to really hold that and be smiling and not focusing on it. So that's basically also what I'm going to share with you. So about 4 years ago, if anyone would have told me that I'd be sitting here today and in a sex positive space and being a body worker, I would have just not believed it. So back then I still was an interior architect and I was working in an office, 9 to 5 or 9 to 6, 7, 8, 9. The profession of interior architecture sounds more romantic than it is nowadays. And I was working in this office and I was kind of trying to fit in and put myself into that frame of people telling you when to take a break and when to get up and when to go home. And I thought I'm doing well, but my body actually was giving me very different signs. And it went really, really bad. So at one point, I was taking about 3 to 5 painkillers a day, just to be able to make it through my day, to be able to function, to show up and to do my work. And I was like kind of taking it as it was. I was like, okay, this is not good, that's for sure. I was going from doctor to doctor and no one could help me. And I was getting more and more desperate, and I was getting more and more depressed and more sad and just hating life and hating myself and hating everyone else, but always smiling and pretending, because this is how what people expect. And at one point I started to look beneath that pain. And I was like getting interested in like, okay, actually what's happening? Why is that coming? Why is that showing up? And it was very obvious that behind the physical pain, there was a lot of emotional pain and traumas. A lot of things from childhood. And so I call this period of my time with my wake-up call. But also back then I had this wake-up call, sort of, and I was knowing, okay, I need to change my life, I need to do something, it's not going to work like this, but then what? Sorry, I have to go a bit, yeah. So, a lot of those pain things actually were making me sick. A lot of the emotional traumas, they were leading to my body storing those experiences, and because I didn't work on them, they were coming up as literal pain. And this is interesting for me, like when I look at the pain itself, it's like there's a lot of pain that actually did make me really sick. And on the other hand, I did use pain quite a lot in my life to heal myself. So back then I didn't know that there is healing potential in King or BDSM, but I was just drawn to that. And with some of those experiences, I really got to points in myself where I was able to feel the pain. First the physical pain, but to allow it and to release it from there. And I had no idea back then what I was doing, and I didn't have the vocabulary for that, and words like release and all these things, they were just, I don't know, I was just doing what I felt like. And the difference here is, like many of those pains actually, especially the ones in the childhood, I didn't choose. I didn't choose them consciously. Most of us don't. Like, if we experience something traumatic, mostly we don't really choose that. Who would? And we also certainly often don't have the power to change anything about this. But the other part, the king, I did choose. So that was something really new and really different for me. And yeah, so I just want to share a little bit more actually about my story. And it's quite, vulnerable for me, but it's such a, like, I think so many of us, we experience things like, for example, for me, like I did grow up without any male role model in my life. Like my dad wasn't there for me when I was younger, so there is this wound of like being abandoned, being rejected, not being good enough. My mom, she was always a single raising mom with me and my two sisters. So she was doing a really amazing job, but at the same time being super overpowered and exhausted. And I was this nerdy child. I did love to go to school, I did love to learn, and go home and do my homework and read and books. And now I realize this was my kind of escape. That was the escape from some pain that I didn't have the access to and that I couldn't name or frame. And so I grew up with these imprints of, exhaustion, not being wanted, and I developed into a very premature teenager. So when I was 12 years old, I had almost the same size, the same height as I have now, like this much shorter. I had the same bra size than I have now, and I was just way too premature, and I didn't notice that, like, I could realize, okay, people are looking at me or some man, but I didn't know what that was. And I didn't have the capacity to somehow process that it's basically energy that's coming in. And from there I went into years of eating disorder. So I had this very self-destructive part in me, and it didn't all really make sense. It was like, okay, those things happened, but why is it actually affecting me so much? And with starting to explore my sexuality, and that was my outlet, that was my first part where I was really daring to be myself, not caring what the others did say. With that, I actually started to release, and with that release, I started to get flashbacks and memories from things in my childhood when I was about 5 years old, sexual abuse. And I didn't have any access to that. And I still don't have fully, but I'm understanding much more where all this was coming from, that my body did build up. So basically when I went so much down that I had to take all those painkillers, this was an epic moment, and I'm super, super grateful for this moment, because this was the lesson, and this was a pointer that something is just wrong, that I am not doing in my life what I should be doing, and that I really have to look more internally. And without this, I wouldn't be sitting here. So one big part in this story, from pain to pleasure, is really to start to accept, not only accept, but like when we are people, when we are experiencing a lot of pain, we often try to fight it. We go against it. We try to solve our struggles, our challenges, our problems, and what happens is all our energy actually goes towards the pain, goes towards the struggle and towards the problem. So the first thing was for me to really start accepting, okay, this is happening. This is what is. And when I got this diagnosis then from doctors, which was this pain disease, and it had really, really bad prospects, it's like, they basically told me like, yeah, you have to learn to live with pain, and probably we're going to be on morphine when you're 40, and that's how they did let me go from the doctors. And I went into a period of deep, deep grief, and I was crying a lot, and I was going to work and crying and being really like, I don't know, like my joints were burning and fatigue and back pain and all this stuff. And now I know actually in hindsight that this was a really, really important period because I was processing it and I was allowing it and I was feeling it. And from there, I decided one day, okay, this is not gonna be my life. And I am the only one who can change that. Because otherwise, who else would do that for me? And also I didn't really feel like if this is gonna be my life, I don't want that. So I have to change it. That's my only chance, basically. And yeah, so this part of like accepting, like, okay, this pain is here, and actually I didn't even care anymore if the pain was there or not. I just wanted to be able to be happy again and enjoy life and feel pleasure and feel joy. And I really started to feel deep gratitude. And that's another big step. It's like for starting to feel the gratitude for everything that we experience in our life. Like this is what shapes you, this is what makes you being you. And this allows you to talk from a place of deep experience also. Another big part, how I got myself out of this kind of deep, dark, ugly mud, is the first, or not the first one, actually that's one of the points I learned the latest, but it's the most important one, and it's slow the fuck down. Like we are just way too busy. I was way too busy in my head. I still am often. It's the point, it's the thing that I'm struggling most with, to really slow down. But the mind is so loud, so if I have this loud mind that's making all this noise, how am I even able to hear myself? How am I supposed to know what I want in life if my mind is so loud that I even can't hear myself? So slowing down and finding a point of silence. And then from this silence, actually, we can start to develop the courage to feel our emotions and to be with them and to sit with them and to look at them and to move them. To move our emotions, to move our bodies. Like animals, like when mammals, when they get a strong experience or possibly traumatizing experience, they start to shake themselves. They go into full body shakes to get it out of the system immediately. But if we humans would be doing this, I don't know, you're getting a really weird call from your mom or something, and you're sitting at a bus stop, and then you go like, that looks funny, and most likely people would look at you, and we just don't do that. What we do is that we go like, and we go into freeze, like Luna just described. And then what happens is just it stays inside, and it grows there and grows and grows until one day we collapse or we explode or whatever our outlet is. So slowing down, finding ways to feel the silence and to become more subtle, and from this place moving your body. It's like there's practices like linear movement, dancing, yoga, whatever it is, but feeling into it. The accepting that you have some things that you're dealing with, whether it's emotions, trauma, physical pain. Yeah, this is what is, and from there now it's your time to move on. And the main thing was really is still my main tool, is shifting the focus from pain to pleasure. And I said before, like if we put our focus into the problems, that's where our energy is going, and that's where I'm putting my focus. Like if I go to a massage because I have such a back pain, I'm going there almost for my pain. But if I go to the massage and deciding, okay, I'm going to the massage, I'm gifting that to myself because it's something pleasurable for my body, it's a whole different energy. And I started to learn to do things rather for myself or for the pleasure instead of the pain. And it's really it's a choice, day over day again, moment for moment for me. Like now, actually, like my pain in the back is really bad, and I could focus on that. And some years ago, I would have stayed home, and I would be almost in pity for myself, and be like, fuck, why can't I not do the things that normal people do, and blah, blah, blah. And now I'm like, okay, yeah, there's the back pain, but there is an event, there's beautiful people, there is things, there's beauty, you know? So focusing on that, and it doesn't mean the pain isn't there, but it's just not the most important thing anymore. Often we know what we need to do, but we're staying in our pain. We're holding on to it. And this is really where we need to get super honest, like super honest with ourselves. And looking into that, because we human beings, we don't do things if there's no benefit for us. This is just not how we work. If we don't get anything out of something, we just basically don't do it. And the question here is like, what benefit is your pain still holding for you? What's the benefit here still? And often the benefits are not so obvious for us. The benefit could just be, okay, I have this pain, I'm focusing mostly on that I'm depressed and feeling like I'm not enough. And this allows me to stay in bed, and this allows me to not to have to step into my purpose and find out what I really want. It allows me to stay small and to not be seen, and also it really is a good excuse to just stay in bed and watch Netflix. It might be holding you back from having to confront your parents with a big talk or whatever. So really looking into like, okay, why am I holding on to this pain? Like, what's the benefit in here? What am I still getting out of it? And I'm doing this over and over again. So my back pain thing is quite a new thing. And I'm sitting there like, fuck, I just thought I got really out of all this pain and stuff. And there comes the next thing. So again, okay, going back and looking what's in there. And I guess the last thing I want to share is the importance of becoming the source. If we want to have more pleasure in our life, and I'm not talking only about sexual pleasure, I'm talking about just the pure pleasure of being alive, of feeling life, of enjoying life. It's becoming the source of that. It's not only doing things for the pleasure instead of the pain, but doing things out of pleasure. And connecting to that little part in you, that little spark that we all have, which is actually loving life and which has this love and this pleasure. And feeling into that. It's like, okay, what is that doing today? Like, what would my pleasurable part be doing today? And from there, giving yourself pleasure, fueling yourself. If I stick to relying on having pleasure from the outside to feel the pleasure, that's really short-term based. But for the long term, it's becoming the source of that and shifting your focus and choosing to love life and choosing to focus on the pleasure. Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Wow, thank you so much for your talk, for your courage to be so vulnerable.